All right. All right. This is our second series that we are having within the church. And these series are designed to help us, but not just us, but give this information to someone else. As we go out into the community, we can share this information with them, but it's intentionally here to help us. And I pray they said they were going to be watching. I'm gonna say their names, Taria and Crystal. I know y'all in Florida, and Angel. They said they were going to be watching, so I'm gonna check and see if they watching. So I'm calling them out. But I wanted to make sure that we have financial freedom. And the reason that this is important to me is that we're able to build wealth and also to pass it down. So today I've invited two of my friends. One of them, I've known him, man, since, man, I want to say he was a little kid because I know his whole family, and his family knew me when I was in the womb up there at Hillcrest. So I have Brenton Harrison, and I have my banker, friend, community liaison, boss of all bosses with bankers, also Deborah Moore here. So if you both would come on up here, I want you all just give them a round of applause. All right. So first question is this going to be the real simple one. Just go ahead and tell them who you are, what you do for a living, and why finances. Let me just make sure just hit the little button is on. Let me cut that on for you. You see the little button? Is it green? And you can just tell them what you do, who you are, and why finance and or banking is important to you.
Okay, my name is Deborah Moore, and I'm Vice President, Community Lending and Relationship Director for Renaissance Bank for the Nashville region. And in a nutshell, finance, I've been in this business for over 35 plus years, but it's always been so important to give back to the community and help them with financial literacy and with helping them grow their wealth. So it's always been kind of a mission of mine from a very early age.
Okay.
Like you said, my name is Brenton Harrison. I'm a financial advisor, so I own a firm called New Money, New Problems. And why finance is important to me. So I grew up in a household of high income earners. My father's a physician, my mother was a nurse, and then turned into a realtor. And I had this big gap between my family's finances and then like my aunts and uncles and cousins' finances. And when that happens in our community, it kind of stresses both sides, right? Like my other family members weren't doing well, which means the only place they had to go to help was my parents. And it basically ended up with neither side being able to prosper. So to me, I wanted to kind of be that bridge to help, people like my other family members do better. But then also when you have a high income earning black family or Latina family, be able to say, here's a way that you can support your own, not abandon them, but still prosper yourself.
Well, I'm glad that, first off, I'm glad you all here, man. Y'all come a long way just for me, so I really appreciate you all. But I want to go ahead and go there. You already mentioned prosper. The Bible tells us that he wants us to prosper and be in good health. So my first question for either one of you all to answer, why do a lot of Christians, believers, think that they are supposed to be poor and not wealthy? Can we dispel that NOMA real quick about it's okay to have money and be a believer or a Christian?
Sure, I think it's a distortion of scripture, first off. when people talk about the love of money, that does not mean that you can't earn it. It means that you can't let it be the center of your life. And you can use money to achieve a great number of goods without being obsessed with it, right? So if you look at the Old Testament church, the people that God says were after his own heart were some of the richest people in the Old Testament. Abraham was one of the richest people that you'll find. He had so much land that he could literally go to Lot and say, you can take whichever plot you want. I'm gonna be good regardless, right? You look at David. David was a man after God's own heart. He's one of the richest people that you'll find. He gave Solomon wisdom. He was one of the richest people that you'll find in the Bible. To me, I think that it's a distortion of people saying, hey, well, it's easier to say that money somehow makes you less spiritual because it means that if you don't end up with money, you're somehow more spiritual. And it doesn't mean that there's a problem with not having money, but it also doesn't rob you of the responsibility of trying to do better with what you have.
And I believe that, you know, it is written that he wants us to live life more abundantly. And so it's learning that it's so important to not let money control you, and that you learn to control money. And I just want to kind of go back a little bit, because I was talking about my background. I've come from, you know, parents that didn't have, and we had, you know, a meager upbringing, you know, a single mother with 3 kids. So it was rough, but I was always my mission I'd always pray on a regular basis every day, bless me so that I may be a blessing. So there are ways to use money so that you can bless others, so that you can enhance your life, so that you're able to give back. And that's something I'll end when we get to the end about philanthropy and all that, but we'll get there.
All right. So I just want to let you know, it is okay to have wealth, because those in the Bible, those anointed, those men and women of God had wealth. It's just not making it your central focus, making it your idol or your God.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's segue into this. What are some of the most common financial mistakes people make, and how can people avoid them to achieve financial freedom?
I'll start.
Okay.
I think the biggest mistake is just not talking about it. You know, in our culture, we're just, you know, we're kind of trained not to talk about money. So our kids don't know about money. And so it's kind of like a spiral, you know. So if you don't grow up and you don't know about money, and your parents don't talk to you about money, they'll talk to you about the birds and bees, but they won't talk to you about money. It's kind of like back in the day, you didn't talk about cancer, you said the C word. But you don't talk about the M word either, which is money. But that's the main thing, one of the most commonly, and also just not dealing with it. You know, people that have issues with money or struggle with money issues, they're just content to struggle, and you don't deal with it. But believing that you can make it out of a financial hole if you're in one, and just believing that you can be prosperous, that you can prosper, and there are ways to do it, and you just have to be vigilant and consistent with how you do it. So, but not dealing with it, coming to terms with it, and putting a plan into work. But really just in our culture, just not sitting around the table and talking about it. You know, you talk about everything else, but really being consistent and teaching the kids and teaching yourself about money.
I'll actually piggyback on that. To me, I think there are 2 major areas, especially in the Black church, where the lack of knowledge damages us. The first is health. And there's reasons for everything, but there are so many people who are afraid to investigate more about their health. You know, you talk to a Black man, including me, you ask them, you know, when's the last time they go to the doctor? They'll tell you, you go to the doctor, that's when you find out what's wrong with you. Like, you know, those things that you grow up hearing. and you're afraid to ask more questions about your health, you're afraid to learn more about your health, it's just it's an intimidating area that we don't explore, and it ends up biting us down the road. Finances is another area that's just like that. It is so intimidating to confront a financial topic that you don't understand, that you just don't learn about it. So you end up getting taken advantage of with things like credit. You end up getting taken advantage of with things like, investments or the lack thereof. And it's just because of the fear of confronting what is an intimidating topic, which is why I think both of us see value in trying to make it more approachable. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing, we talk about biggest mistakes, is for some reason people will be afraid of finances their whole life, and then they'll hear some financial idea that someone told them about, and they've never confronted money, but all of a sudden they're an expert on some stock that their friend told them about, right? So they go from 0 to 100, where it's like, I haven't done anything foundational, I don't understand any of these things, nor have I ever tried, but now, I got a friend who told me if I put my money into this, I'll double it in 6 months, and then they're in a hole.
That's them pyramid schemes that they was running a few years ago on Cash App. They had to shut that down.
Exactly.
What was it called? It was one called the
Susus
butterfly, the
and
susu, the
looms
butterfly,
and-
all of that.
I blocked it out.
I'll put my money with 20 other people. I'm like, okay, let's just take this circle loom thing out of it. Would you want to put your money in a pot with 19 other people that you don't know, in any other circumstance? Probably not.
Probably not. So what you all are really highlighting, some of the common mistakes is just education.
And of course, there's another one I didn't mention, but because usually when I do a lot of financial literacy workshops around the country. But one of the things that I start with is our relationship with money. The psychology of money. What do we think? How are we thinking about money? Why are we making mistakes? Okay, what are the causes? And one of them that I always bring up is the social media. You see everybody living the life of local or whatever. They live in a good life, and so everybody wants to go to the yacht club, and they want to go to the trips, and so you're looking at this, and you want to try to keep up with that, and then you've got the advertising that's trying to sell you everything. I just have to click mine off because Amazon's on there trying to sell me. Everybody's trying to sell me something. So it's a trap, to try to do that when you see everybody pretending, because most of the people that are pretending that they're doing, living a good life, got this car, got this house, that's not their house. They got background. AI is something else. They, got you thinking they're in Italy and they're not in Italy. So I'm just saying, but people buy into that, trying to keep up with that. So they'll go into debt, and then they're struggling trying to come out of it. But, those are just some of the pitfalls of trying to handle the money.
So you said pitfalls. So in avoiding the pitfalls, how should someone effectively budget their money to balance their savings, investing, and paying off? Because I think a lot of people are afraid of investing.
Yeah.
But that's what a lot of people say, scared money don't make money. So how can someone effectively budget to balance saving and investing and paying off debt?
Okay, you got to get real mad at yourself. I mean, really, when people come to me, they're desperate. They're at their, and they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're Indian chiefs, they're nurses, they work for the government. Whatever they're doing, they have, they've messed up really bad usually. So, but you have to really get mad. I mean, I've counseled people in my family. He talked about the family. It was always important to me to change my family tree. So, you were talking about bridging the gap, so that you're not doing well and the rest of your family's not doing well. Well, it was important for me to educate my whole family, my cousins, and raise them up as I was coming up. But you have to really get mad at yourself and decide, I just don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I'm tired of being broke. So once you get mad, you make that plan. And you make better choices with your spending habits. and start saving, little bit by little bit, okay? Start small. You save for your emergency, you get an emergency fund, and then you look at ways to invest, but that's what he does. I'm not gonna cross the line. But, that's what you wanna do. You really have to because if you get mad enough and you decide to sit down, like I said earlier, and kind of look at the woman or the man in the mirror and say, what do I have to do? And I've decided I'm gonna make better choices on spending, because with our community, it's spending. We're the biggest consumers in the world.
What is that for? Like, what do we spend, 2 trillion?
Oh, it's a lot.
Is it 2 trillion
We
or something?
we spending it, we're
Just
not
in
saving
America,
it.
Black Americans.
Right. We're spending it like it's water. I mean, but we have nothing not a lot to account for it, so.
I mean, I know that's not on the question, but we might want to talk about that in a second.
Sure.
About just how the black dollar
Yes.
only stays in the community. What is it, like a minute or something like that?
Yes, it goes fast. We like the shoes, we want the cars, we want, we like the designer stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the designers are not doing anything for us.
Uh-oh.
Okay, but anyway, don't let me go there.
Don't go to it.
And I don't know what the secret is at Victoria, but I don't want to know it. But anyway.
Go ahead, Brent.
I agree 100%. I will add to that something that I think people get offended when you bring up, but it has to be addressed.
Yeah.
You can budget as best as you can sometimes and be as responsible as you can. And if you live in an area where you're earning $2,000 and it's impossible to live for less than $3,000, at some point you have to confront the fact that you have to either earn more money or move. And I think that people get offended because you don't like the answer of, hey, you have to get a skill set that commands more money, or you have to switch jobs, or you have to take on a second job, or you have to move. But sometimes that's the answer. You and I have a mutual friend, Courtney Hale, and okay, yeah, like a brother to me. And Courtney calls it human capital. It is the collection of your skill set and your network and what that allows you to command on the open market. And the fact of the matter is sometimes the answer is budgeting, but it is also increasing your human capital. So you can, pinch pennies and make sure that you're buying name brand or store brand stuff as much as you want to, but sometimes the answer is going to a community class and taking a free course that they have available, or taking an internship somewhere, or taking on a second job, whatever the case may be, because the fact of the matter is you have to be responsible, but you also have to be able to earn what allows you to move forward.
I'm thinking about this as far as with money. I know this ain't on the script right here, but I like to throw a little bit of stuff in there. You knew I was gonna do that, but that's okay. That's why
It's
you know
okay.
me so well. That's why
It's
we
Come on with
friends.
it.
So how do we teach or help maybe ourselves or loved ones to be fiscally responsible or financially responsible with our monies? Even though you said we got to learn our spending habits, how do we restrain those things and pull ourselves back, knowing that we got a spending problem culturally?
Well, I talked about a budget. I mean, people don't like the B word either. I mean, but it's a budget, and it's sitting down every week, every month. If you are married, sitting down with your husband or sitting down with your wife and looking at your finances. I know. Look at
I looked at my wife. She
I
looked.
saw you.
Yeah,
I see.
and she gave me a look back and everything. I'm gonna
it's
keep
really-
looking at y'all so I don't get in trouble.
Yeah, it's the family meeting, and where did our money? We made this much money this month. Where is it? How much did we save? How much did we give to the church? How much are we short? And back to what Mr. Harrison was saying, that human capital. If I'm not making enough money, what do I need to do to make more money? But I'm a believer, of course, as a banker. I mean, I've seen people that make a lot of money, C-suites, like you said, doctors, I mean, would make a lot of money and have no money. So, and I've seen people that just, sanitation workers or whatever, that know what to do with the money, and they have money. They have more money than the people making $250,000 a year in the bank. Because it's not how much you make, it's what you do with what you have. And if you're making good decisions with the money you have, because it is unbelievable, because I can see the accounts. I can see those credit scores and how much you spend. I can see your debt. I can see what you're spending it on. So it's like the people that make the most spend the most. The more you make, the more you spend, but they have nothing to account for it. So it's just being a good steward of what money that you have.
Y'all heard that, good steward. I ain't gonna preach that right now. You got anything to add to it?
I think the good steward part is a big part of what your first question was about, like, why do people say or think that you have to be poor or you can't, be wealthy? So I tell, it's not my parable, but I talk about the parable of the talents when I talk in religious environments. And one of the first things you have to realize is a talent was literally gold, right? And I think if God had a problem with us earning more money, he wouldn't have one of his keynote parables be about getting more gold that he left to a servant. But the interesting thing that I don't think is covered in that parable is that he gave each servant a different amount of talents. But at the end of it, it says that he gave it to them according to his ability.
Their human what? Capital.
Their human capital. So essentially, before he left, he determined how much he should give to each servant based on what he knew they would do with it while he's gone. And the person that didn't do anything with it got the least amount on the front end. So to me, it implies money is used in the example. I don't think we think that God is a God of coincidences. And he gave the least amount of money to the person who was going to put the least amount of effort into growing it.
Mercy. And that goes back to trust.
Right.
Can he trust you with those things? So some of us don't have, because God says, I can't trust you with this right now. Mercy.
Trust you with a little.
Trust you with a little, then
yes.
he says, hey,
Right.
But that was the reward also. He says, you've been faithful over a few, now I'm going to give you more. And that was one, he said, I'm going to, the one that's been faithful, give it to him.
Absolutely.
Think about how many parables involve money. It's like the parable of the lost coin. Like, treat that money as if it's valuable. The
woman with the two mites.
You treat money like it's valuable.
Don't be a slave.
And don't be a slave to it. No, you want to go there?
I mean, as far as for the lender.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't be a slave to
Well, go to the lender, but that's where I was going. We kind of going there, and because if in the parable, it talks about at least you could have taken it to the bankers and gain interest.
Absolutely.
You're a banker.
Yes.
Take 2 minutes to talk about interest and interest rates currently right now. I don't know if it's on here right now, but you told me, you my personal banker, and I've come to you and talked to you, be like, hold up, don't do anything right now.
Right.
We're in a recession. The interest rates are not going down.
Yeah.
You don't want to do anything.
Well, if you're borrowing.
If you're borrowing.
Right.
But give them the understanding of why it's important to get the lowest rate on interest and how that affects everything on the market right now, the interest rates.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at borrowing rates, okay, the rates are high, but I have people call me and I talk to people all day, all night. I had one call me, young man, doing very well, he and his wife, and says she's got house fever. She wants to buy a bigger house.
Mercy.
We got these extra babies in here, and we need a big house, and we don't like the layout of the house, because I'm asking, what's wrong with the house you got? But, but he's very risk averse. In other words, he doesn't like debt. So he's kind of toe up, because he doesn't want to go buy a bigger house. Everything she's looking at is big. And I said, well, okay, this is how you're gonna have to do this. Right now, the rates are high, but it's also a good opportunity if you're prepared financially to get a house, because this is a borrower's market. In other words, the people that are selling have to make all kind of concessions because it's so many houses out there for sale now. So, and I told myself, well, you want to look for a deal. This is the time to look for, if you're going to buy a house, yes, the interest rates are high and you can always refinance when the rates drop. But if you want to get a deal, this is the time to get a deal. Because 4 or 5 years ago, there were very few houses for sale. So the bidding wars on houses. So it drove the house prices up. But now there's a glut of houses for sale that are sitting there. Builders are giving you all kind of deals on houses. So, so kind of talking through that, but your credit score determines what your interest rate is going to be. If you have great credit, you're going to get a decent interest rate. But right now, borrowing interest rates are up. But if you're buying a house, it's a consideration, but you want to be ready for it because they're not, you're going to get concessions on those terms. I mean, because the borrowers now going there and ask for everything. We want $10,000. We want you to pay the close. We want you to pay for everything to buy your house. Okay, so if you're ready, this is actually not a bad time to buy a house. So, but I talk about savings rates. Savings rates are low.
Yeah.
But they're good. You have to look for high yield savings, and of course, I'm gonna let him talk about other ways to make the money. But this is also it's so important to be ready for big purchases, and even for cars. The rates are high. The borrowing rates are high right now. So you want to try to stay out of debt as much as possible, unless you're going into an appreciating asset like a home.
Yeah, she's taught me a lot, says you want to keep that debt to income ratio low.
It's low.
As low as you can if you're looking into purchasing and all of that. Did you want to add anything to that about interest rates?
Yeah, I actually don't rush people into investments. I try to get people to maximize the money that they have first. And a part of that is, if you do have savings sitting around, at least make sure they're in a high yield account. So, you can find accounts right now that are paying you 4.5%. So if you have savings that are sitting there getting 1/4% at your bank, you might ask that same bank, do you have a high yield savings account? And now, instead of getting 1/4%, you're getting 3.5 or 4 or 4.5%. That's moving the ball forward. It doesn't have to be, because I'm not making all the money in the world, I shouldn't do anything at all. Slow progress is lasting progress.
So this last one off the cuff for right now. Would you advise CD accounts, mutual funds, or would you say, hey, go out here and invest your money in the stocks, IRA? What would be the best? I know this is kind of joint between you all, but I know how you feel on it. But which one would you put some money into right now if you were trying to build some long-term wealth or build some money up?
Well, I advocate every day, all day, for a diversified portfolio. All day. You want to have some in savings. You want to have some if you've built up enough in savings. And it depends on your comfort level. Because, I can tell people you can make more money in a money market or in a mutual fund or whatever, but it depends on your comfort level. But I say to try to do a little bit of all, real estate. You want savings accounts. Some people don't want to do a CD. They don't want to, and it's called a time deposit. They don't want to lock their money up for 6 months or a year or 2 years and, may take a penalty for taking it out. They feel better in a money market, or high yield savings. But if you want to really grow and use the power of compound interest, you'll want to make sure you're working your money. And I know I preached to you before. Work your money so you don't have to work.
There's not many investments. There are not many investments that I'm like categorically against. I'm against you putting money into something that you don't understand. So let me give you a real life example of why I'm not the biggest fan of CDs, not because of the vehicle, but because of the lack of understanding. Let's say that you put, $1,000 into a CD and it gets 4% interest. Well, that's what, $40? Something like that. Don't check my math. Yeah. So people will do that and they don't realize that $40 is income. It's taxable income. So they will get a tax statement from their bank at the end of the year. Maybe they have a bunch of CDs. Maybe they get a tax bill that says, you had $2,000 worth of interest that is a 1099. It's just like if you were an independent contractor. It's like you earned that money. But unlike your job, which takes taxes out of your paycheck, they don't take taxes out of the CD. So you get a surprise tax bill and you say, where did this come from? Why do I owe? Well, it's because you didn't understand that CD, the interest that it earned, was taxable income. I'll give you another example. I will meet with older, people who have CDs at banks and credit unions all over. So let's say you have 3 different CDs and 3 different savings accounts at 3 different banks. Well, that's 3 different tax forms that you have to keep up with, and you have to find a way to set aside taxes for all those things. Another thing about most CDs is unless you tell them otherwise, when the term finishes, it will automatically roll into a new CD. So if you come and you don't know that and you need some of the money out, now you have to pay a penalty for it. We've seen those where not only does that happen, but because of the way that particular bank does it, it will initiate a different tax form for each individual CD. So we've had people who have filed their tax return and they'll get a letter from the IRS because they forgot to turn in that tax form, and they'll say, we have 8 different accounts here that, but I've seen it, but it may not be 8. Yeah. It may be that they're looking at 2 CDs that have rolled over multiple times, and the way that bank reports it, it looks like different accounts. And now, so does that mean that you shouldn't do a CD? Not necessarily, but it means that if you're going to do an investment, you need to understand how that investment works, how it impacts the rest of your finances, and then it may be the right thing.
Well, you pay interest income on your savings accounts and high yield savings as well. It's the same thing.
Right, and people miss those tax forms.
Absolutely, but you're going to pay. If we're going to pay you interest, you're going to earn income on any investment vehicle, unless you're in some of his, which I will know. I know what those are. That's a loophole for that. But it's like what he said. I mean, you want to invest based on what I said earlier, on your comfort level. You may not understand how a CD works, and so you stray away from that. You may just feel comfortable with, just like you said, a money market or high yield savings, but you're still going to get that same interest form on whatever you earn interest on. You're going to get it, and so it goes into your taxes for earned income because you earned that money off the interest. But with this, like I said, with the certificate of deposit, the CD, it's like anything else I tell people, watch your money. If you don't watch your money, you won't have any money. I mean, you just can't let it sit there. Yeah. If you know that CD is gonna come up and it's gonna mature in 5 months or whatever term it is, you don't let it just sit there. Because by the way, if it rolls over, you're not gonna get that same interest rate. It may start out at 4%, like you said. But if you let it mature and let it keep rolling, you're not getting 4%. That's why you got to watch your money. So you go in there and you renegotiate that CD after it matures, whether it's 14 months or 5 months, for whatever that going rate is. But you always have to watch money. Watch yourself. I watch, and I tell people, watch your money. It's too much going on out here. Yeah. If you're not looking at your statements monthly, in fact, if you're not on your bank app looking at it weekly, you better watch your money. It's a lot of stuff going on out here. Okay.
And that's one thing she told me about. Just like sometimes when you go to a bank, they have hidden fees for monthly,
Absolutely.
like just for keeping an account. So you
right.
need to know what you're getting into.
Exactly.
So I want to get kind of down here. I'm going to question number 4, because I think you all have already covered the investment strategies for beginners to build long-term wealth. But how important is credit in the journey towards financial independence, and what are practical ways to improve and maintain a good score? Because there are a lot of people out here think they got the fix for good credit and you know how to get their score up and everything, and they'll say, hey, you got to use credit to make money and all of this. So give us a breakdown on that journey of how important credit is, because I want to say there's like this question that says, would you take a 800 score or would you take $1 million? Which one would you take? And some people were like, I take the 800, and then or some be like, give me the cash in hand. You know, you don't have to you don't have to answer that, but how important is credit within this journey to financial freedom?
Give me the money and I can get an 800 credit score. I can fix my credit.
I'll take less than $1 million.
Yeah, like, give me 250 and I can fix my credit. So, but yes, credit.
Take the money. That's what she's saying.
Yeah, I mean, you can fix the credit score once you get the money. I'm just saying, you know, if you got 800 and you got 15 cents in the bank, it means nothing. So, but we can, if your credit score is 500 and you get $1 million, we can help you with it. So, but credit, the credit score is very, very important. I mean, you know, people that take it lightly, they're not buying anything. In other words, you need a good credit score if you got to go buy a car. You need it if you're buying a house. You need it if you even rent an apartment. If you need if you want the good insurance, and I'm talking about home and car insurance, they're looking at your credit score. And cable, yeah, everything. They're looking at your credit score.
Cable looking at the credit
score?
score?
Yeah, everything. They're looking at your credit. Yeah. Credit, your credit score is an indicator of how you manage your money. I don't either.
I'm sorry, I distracted you. I don't have cable, so I didn't know that.
I didn't know it. So it's an indicator of how well you manage your money. So that's why it's so important. So when you come to the bank, even when you open an account, they'll kind of run a soft hit on, you know, just to see if you're not doing anything crazy out there and what credits. But it's so important. It's gonna give you a lot, you know, better opportunities, even with credit cards. If you do the credit cards, and you're gonna get a better rate. Although I don't know that there's really a good rate on a credit card, but don't let me go there. But you're gonna have a good advantage if you have a higher credit score. But be careful with credit cards.
Mercy.
I'm not against credit cards, but I don't think you need more than 2. But people have 5 or 6, and you can get in a trap with that. Pay to keep your credit score high. Pay before time. And I know you hear people say pay on time, but I'm gonna tell you to pay before time. Paying on time is good, but paying before time is better, okay? So that makes sure there are no glitches. If you like to mail your bills, which I don't know a lot of people do, but there are people that still mail the bills, but there's a lot going on at the post office. So make sure you're doing, you know, you have automatic payments for your utilities even, for your mortgage, for your, you know, you want to put everything automatic so that, because if they're getting their payments on time, that's going to help your credit score, okay? So, and if you do use a credit, try to pay it off monthly. In other words, charge enough on your credit card that you don't want to charge so much that you can't pay it off monthly, because that interest they're charging you, 20%, 19, 20, 21, 23%. So, but if you pay it off, what you charge every month, you're not going to have to pay that.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
I'm going to say something in two parts.
Go ahead.
And let me get to the second part.
You go for it.
I could not care less about my credit score.
Yeah.
But the reason, so that's part one. Part two is the reason is I built my credit over time the right way with the right habits. And because of that, it is almost impossible for my credit score to go down. So no matter what anybody tells you about credit, 35%, the biggest part of your credit score is just paying your bills on time. So the fast track that people tell you, the best way to bulletproof your score is to literally just pay your bills on time. The second biggest part of it is your utilization ratio. So they look at how much available credit you have on a credit card, and then at a certain time of the month, they look at how much of that available credit you've borrowed. Now, she said, pay your bills early. Here's why that's so important. Who has a credit card in here? You don't have to tell if you have a balance. So you know that at a certain point of the month, you get a statement balance that says how much you spent in the previous 30 days. But then they might give you another 15, 20 days before the bill is due, right? So what people will do is they'll think, oh, as long as I pay by when the bill is due, my credit utilization will be okay. But your credit card company sends to a credit bureau what's on the statement balance. So if you pay it early before the statement balance closes, that's what actually gives you a low utilization ratio. So I have a calendar reminder to just at least pay my credit card down before the statement expires. So between me paying my bills on time and paying at least towards my credit card early. So, and this is what I talk about, like not every circumstance is the same. I'm a business owner. I work for myself. I have employees. And the fact of the matter is I don't have a salary, right? I have the net profit of whatever my business has. But I have payroll every 2 weeks. So there are periods where I have expenses where it's not monetarily possible for me to take my cash flow and pay off my credit card in full before the statement balance. But I can pay towards it. And here's the type of thing that allows me to not care about my credit. Because my credit score has been so high for so long, every single year I get presented with opportunities because of how high my credit score is. So for example, I may have $5,000 on a credit card, like a business card or a personal card, and it may be like, well, it's not an ideal time for me to be paying this $5,000 off, but I don't want to pay interest. And I'll get a random email from a credit card company that I already have that says, because you're such a great customer, we're going to allow you to transfer a balance from this card to your current card, and we'll give you 9 months to pay it off at 0% interest. You don't get that type of offer if you have poor credit. It's not something you want to take advantage of if you really do have the money to pay it off. But I can't tell you how many periods that has been so helpful to be like, oh man, now I can address other areas of my finances. And that's why I don't care about it. I know that whatever I apply for, if I need to apply, I'm going to get the best interest rate that there is, but I'm not planning to apply for anything. And my credit opens up more doors than it closes because I built it the right way.
Absolutely. That's good. And you're doing it the right way. And you don't have to worry about it because you have a good, sound practice for protecting your credit. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is having your payments automatically set, making sure you're looking at everything every month, and being ahead of the game on paying that credit. So once you have that system in place, which is what you do, and of course I do too, that's not a concern, anymore. That's just not a concern. So, and that's what it's all about. It's just putting best practices into place, making a plan, making a budget, sticking to it, have an accountability partner. Yeah, I know you have a good accountability partner.
I do. I can't look at her right now, but she know my partner. She helped me out. She helped me out.
Yeah, do it for yourself. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead. Make sure the mic is on and everything. Got to hit the button. Hit the button.
Okay, so I have a question. Many of us have children who don't have credit, and they are looking to get credit so they can go out and buy whatever it is necessary, move out on their own. So how is it a parent can help their child establish credit? Now, I've heard you can add them towards a credit card. Some parents co-sign for things for their children so that they can get credit after a certain period of time. What is it a parent can do to help their child as they're young develop that credit before they get to that age to move out?
How young? How old?
We'll give them 10, 11. Yeah, I'm saying, what is it a parent can do to help their child establish credit so when they get to that age to move out on their own, you know, and they don't have to worry, they don't have to lean on a parent.
I'll let him go first. I've been going first. Yeah, I've been going first. I'm gonna let him go first.
So if you're going to do that, so as you mentioned, your daughter can technically get a card under you, but you have to make sure that the credit bureau will report the credit activity of authorized users. Some do not. Yeah, so you have to ask. So like you can get a card for somebody, but you have to ask them, do you report this credit activity? You also need to be aware that if you're doing terribly with that card, that's going to reflect terribly on your child's credit. So it really only works if you are going to add them to a card that you are doing well maintaining. I, in almost all scenarios, am against co-signing for almost everything unless it's something that I have the ability to pay myself. So the only way I would co-sign for anybody's anything is if I have open communication with that person where I can see that the bill is being paid on time, and if it's not being paid on time, I have the money to pay it. I have seen some horror stories where we have people where it's like I co-signed for my cousin's private student loan and they stop paying it, and either I have to now pay off their student loan or my credit's wrecked. So co-signing is very, very dangerous. I would probably stick towards things like an authorized user on a card that you're doing well.
Okay, I'm gonna go left on that. I agree with you on a lot of that, but I don't know why the child needs credit. The child doesn't need credit. The child can build credit when it's time. I mean, a child doesn't need credit. I mean, it's good to, to think about it, thinking ahead. But if they're 11 or 12, until they get to college, and by the way, when they get to college, they're gonna just give them a credit card. They don't care what kind of credit. And of course, I threatened mine. I raised 3 kids. And I said, if you go to college and get a credit card now, it's gonna be a come to Jesus meeting. I'm not gonna do it, because that's the biggest trap. When you get it, because now you got to drop out of school and pay for the credit cards. You can't pay tuition, but it's a way to build credit when it's time. And I'm just like you. I have never co-signed for anything, and I have counseled many people: do not co-sign if it's your mama, your dad, your brother. I've had too many people. I've had to get them out of situations. I've had to help them get. My best cousin, she was down and out, and I co-signed for a car, and she rode off into the sunset and didn't pay one note. And that young lady who's responsible is stuck paying all those car notes for a car she don't have the keys to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so even my kids, they said, well, Mom, you can co-sign for us a car. I said, oh, no. I'm banker mom. You're going to save your money and buy your own car.
I already got a car.
Okay, I'm good. I don't see a problem with you riding the bus to school.
Mercy.
But they didn't believe it. My oldest didn't believe it. He's 15. He said, Mom, but you can buy us a car. I said, buy me a car. I said, yeah, I can. Thank God. I can buy you a car, but I'm not. You won't appreciate that car if I buy you that car, if I co-sign for you a car. You don't need a new car. You don't even know how to drive.
Mercy.
So let's get you a little trainer car, and you save up your money. So He was 15. Then he was decided, on my junior year in college, in high school, I do not want to ride on the bus. So he started cutting grass. He got on the roofs with his granddaddy. He started doing all kind of stuff because he realized she's really not going to buy me a car. So the other two figured it out. She's not buying us nothing. She's not co-signing for nothing. I said, nobody did it for me. And I did all right.
You know, what I was going to add to that when you were talking about co-signing
I'm
is
tough.
sometimes you being willing to co-sign actually puts the person who needs the money in a worse position.
Absolutely.
Because it allows them to get debt that they're not prepared
Absolutely.
to pay back because of your strong financial profile.
Exactly.
Now, this situation ended up working out, but we had this happen in my family where an older family member, very old family member, was willing to co-sign for a debt for another family member of mine. And it was like a 15-year repayment schedule.
Oh my God.
And this person, they ended up managing it extremely well. But when they were asking me about it, I said, here's the thing. The person that you have co-signing this loan is so old that by the end of this 15 years, they'll be dead. They're not going to be able, they will not be able to rescue you. They will literally be dead 15 years from now. So you need to ask yourself, you wouldn't have been able to do this without this person. Is that a good thing or a bad thing that they're helping you get it? If you're comfortable with the fact that if anything goes wrong, there's nobody else coming, then go ahead.
Yeah.
But you are only getting this because of this person's credit.
Yeah.
And to their
Yeah, they
benefit
did good.
credit, they handled
They
it
did good.
well.
Yeah.
But I have seen so many situations
Go
where
left.
it's like, hey, this person co-signed on this debt. And it's like, well, you probably shouldn't have gotten that in the first place. There might be a good reason that you got declined when you tried to qualify on your own.
Yeah. And I've seen probably one of the worst situations I've seen is where grandparents, and I'm a grandparent, okay, I've got grandkids. Y'all know I'm not co-signing for them either. But I've seen grandparents and trying to help them, they get in a financial situation, they get in a financial bind, and they come to me, and so when I look, I say, why are you have great income, you have great pensions, you're doing great. And then I pull their credit, and they've co-signed for 3 cars for the 3 grandkids. So they can't help themselves. They've worked 40 years for the pension, but they felt obligated to help 3 grandkids buy a car, brand new cars.
Mercy.
So that they're in a financial bind, they can't breathe.
They can't even retire.
Well, they have retired, but they
Well.
can't breathe. The stress of that financial situation will take them out. So, and 3 kids that can work, that are able-bodied people that can work and take care of themselves. But young ones are very resourceful. They'll find a way to do it. And if you teach them about how to do it, and I kind of forced mine into learning about, to save. And that's helped start their savings habits. Even today, they're all grown and have their own kids now, but those saving habits lived on and their financial habits, but yes.
I want to throw this out here because you kind of threw there about retirement and everything.
Yes.
I know I didn't have that on there.
Yeah.
What is a good number for retirement? I know everything with the stocks and everything is just up and down right now with the tariffs and with the 401k just being all over the place. What is a good retirement number for someone that's looking into retirement? How do they start saying, okay, I'm getting closer and ready to sustain myself for that? What are some tips that either one of you all have for someone who's looking towards retirement in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, one, I hope you've maxed out, or if you want to max out your 401k, and if you're looking to retire in the near future, you want to go ahead and, as much as you can of your income, put in that 401k. That's going to help. But minimize your debt, and kind of make a plan of how you want to live, because there's not really a golden number. It just depends on your lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Some people are content to, I'm good as long as I don't have to pay, with my income I'll have coming in from Social Security or my pension or my 401k, that I'll be good. But especially if you don't take on more debt, but you want to have you want those golden years to be golden. So you want to minimize your debt as much as possible, and making sure, like I said, back to what I've said from the beginning, making a plan. You want to get with someone like Mr. Harrison to help you, to advise you about some of the pitfalls that you can get into. But there are ways to make sure you have that number, because you just want to be, a lot of people just want to be comfortable, but a lot of people want a different lifestyle. They want the beach home in Florida. They want to be able to travel all over the world. And so you want to, if you want to plan early. That's not something you can do right now. If it's time to retire, it's not time. But if you've done the right things many years before, in your 30s, in your 20s, and you're working for a corporate, you want to go ahead and get the free money. Like I said, with the 401k, I call that free money. In other words, they're going to match what you put in it. That's free money. So if, those are things, IRAs, things you want to use, other vehicles to use for retirement. But I'll let you speak to, because he's got some good options on his side for that.
If you have decades before retirement, I don't even focus on a number. I focus on how much you're investing.
Exactly.
So to her point, if you're in your 20s and 30s, don't even focus on the number. Try to save and invest as much as you possibly can. And the closer you get to retirement, we'll look at your expenses and what you need, and we'll compare it to what you've saved. So the earlier you are in your investment journey, focus on your savings and your investment rate. The closer you are to retirement, you start to have to confront some of those realities about, sometimes the answer is either earning more money or cutting your expenses. There's a rule, and it's a loose rule of thumb in our industry, that they call the 4% rule. And what it means is, however much you have saved, when you're trying to figure out how much of that money you can live off of each year, they encourage you to spend no more than 4%. Now, they've increased that over the years, but let's go off of that rule. Whatever I've saved, I can spend 4% of it per year. That means that if I want to generate another $4,000 per year in retirement, I have to save $100,000. I have to save $100,000 to generate $4,000 a year of income. Now, I would ask you, if you're 5 years from wanting to retire, is it easier to save $100,000 in 5 years, or is it easier to cut your expenses by $4,000, or find something that will pay you an additional $4,000 even as a part-time job in retirement? It's probably easier to either cut your expenses or get more income. And that's why I say there are some conversations that we don't want to have when it comes to, hey, there is a point in life where, depending on what you're trying to do, it is too late to do it the quote unquote conventional way. And you might have to do things unconventionally. We've had some people who have gotten 7, 8 years out from retirement, and they will stop whatever method they were trying and start trying to snap up rental properties. And they'll say it's because, hey, this will, if I do this and I have 10, and you don't know what that strategy will lead to, but it's like, you have to be able to confront what you have done by a certain age and have an honest conversation about it. I haven't saved as much as I want to. What does that mean for the options that I have? It may mean that I have to move farther out. It may mean that I have to spend less. If I can't spend less, it may mean that I have to make more. How do I do that? And sometimes that's the answer.
And one good thing, if you have a home that you bought, you became a homeowner early and you've kept it, you've got a lot of equity in your home. And I have friends that have retired, and that's their retirement plan, basically, is their home. So they use the equity in their home to help with that as well, because they don't need a big home anymore. They need just a small place. And so they cash out on that because they built, if they have land or property, so they use it. And like I said earlier, there are different different ways to build wealth as far as a diversified portfolio. And like I said, that real estate, that savings, that 401k, your mutual funds, you want to make sure you can balance it all out, because like I said, sometimes the market goes up, sometimes the market goes down, but if you have a good balance, you'll be good for it.
Well, I want to open it up. There's any more questions that anybody from the audience has before we ask them to give their last little nugget? Go ahead and go to the mic if you have a question. Yes, you got it.
Make her go to the mic.
We got people watching. We got people watching, so.
Can y'all talk about, I keep on looking at the flyer talking about generational wealth, and one of the things that Bryant and I have been going through with our parents is making sure that they, we're still going through it, but making sure that they set up a trust for their family versus a will or nothing. And, as I talk to people at work and things like that, our counterparts, they all have trust, and they have this knowledge and set up their future generations to be in a better situation and not have to go to probate and do all this stuff once they're gone. So can you talk about what types of things, maybe your financial services that you advise people on this, or how can we get that knowledge out to our people? Because we are so clueless when it comes to that. And I would say our parents' generation is probably one of the first to really have assets or have, a good financial base where they can say, oh, we live in this house for 50 years, it's paid off, let me set it up for my future generations. So what's your advice, just to kind of, some of us maybe, trying to talk to our parents and all that?
There are two things that I think would create generational wealth immediately, regardless of how well or not well a person has saved in our community. The first is stopping the belief that you only need enough life insurance to bury you. There is a reason that people think that. There are many stories of insurance companies doing wrong by Black people, but this is not a recommendation. But I was meeting with a high income earning Black family, and I recommended that they get $5 million worth of term insurance, couple in their 30s. They were like, well, what in the world? I only need enough to bury, so on and so forth. And I'm like, look at how much you're spending right now, and understand that this policy, and this is a couple, multiple six figures, because of their age and their health, the policy was $250 a month. And I'm trying to get them to understand, if this person died 2 years from now, you would have paid like $3,000, and your wife would get $5 million.
You're right, Brandon.
Why would you not do that, right? So that alone, there are some things that my parents wish they would have done better in terms of how much they saved. But one thing that they did was they got life insurance early, and they made sure they kept it, and it's gonna pay out. So we will get some level of inheritance regardless of whether they have their own investment accounts or not. So that's the first part. The second part is wills and trusts. So to make sure we separate the two, even if you have a will, your family has to go through probate.
That's right.
It's just a matter of them determining the will is valid, but depending on the court, that can still take time. And you pay for probate in many cases based on the size of your probate estate. So even if you have a will, they go through probate, and it could take a while, and it could cost a lot of money because of how much you left during and through your will. A trust stands apart from your will. Now, technically, there are some trusts that can be created by your will, but the type of trust that you're referring to, in most cases, it's going to be a revocable trust. And a revocable trust doesn't go through probate.
Right.
So whatever you've put in that trust prior to your death, or whatever you've left to the trust upon your death, is not in your probate state. Your beneficiaries have access to it immediately. So in many cases, if you even have a home, a trust is a great tool, because you can put the house in the trust, even now, while you're alive. You don't lose any access to the home or benefits of the ownership. But the day that you die and that death certificate is presented to whomever, your beneficiaries have access to it. And the other benefit to that is you have to understand that creating the trust, you have to fund it. You have to go through the process of either putting the house in the trust or naming the trust as the beneficiary, because quite literally last week, I was meeting with a family that had created a trust 20 years ago and hadn't funded it with anything and hadn't named it the beneficiary of anything. Oh, wow. So it's like, well, you just paid a few $1,000s to create this trust and for nothing, because you have to follow the second step, which is funding it.
To piggyback on what you said, the will in our community, getting a will seems to be the hardest thing. It is. But if we could just start with getting a will. But I agree with you. I agree with you as well. The trust is even more important because that keeps you out of probate. But you can put everything in a trust. You can put your accounts, your checking accounts, your high-yield savings accounts, your CDs, your house, your will. Everything can go in that trust, okay? But it's, in our community, we don't trust the insurance man because, like you said, we're just looking for burial insurance. But I agree with everything he said about that because I've sold a lot of insurance in my career.
So how do we change that stigma within our community? Because I feel like my parents, they just set up their trust for us. And anytime we talk to them about it, they act like they're mad at us.
They think they're about to die as soon as they set it up.
No, they don't even think like that. They just seem mad.
Are you the administrator on it or the trustee on the trust? Are you a trustee on the trust?
Me and my siblings.
And you don't know what it looks like?
My sister does. I'm not in town where they're at, so my sister is the main executor because she's local.
Well, I mean, it's
But the thing is, when we talk about it to them, they seem annoyed that we push them to do this, and it's like, y'all do realize, we're trying to get you to set up for your children and your grandchildren and future generations, so that when you are gone, we don't have to worry about these things. But it's like there's a stigma in our community.
It is about money.
Yeah, and
about
it's like
money and
and
who's gonna get my stuff. So right now, the heirs property is one of our community's biggest issues. It's huge. I mean, all over the United States, heirs property for our community because we don't do wills. So now it's got to go through probate, and you got to pay all these attorneys a lot of money to figure out how to split this land into 25 different people because you don't have a will.
And people can contest it and come out.
It could go on for years and years.
Right.
So you're paying all the money that mom and them wanted you to have. Okay, so that's how important it is because that's how we're losing our wealth.
Yeah. So let me ask this right here: Do you all help with trusts? I know you.
No, I'm not an attorney, so I couldn't. No,
do you
not
help
legal.
set those up, Brenton?
So we refer to attorneys to create the trust, and then we help with the investments and the insurance that funds it. But to your point about your parents, the conversations that I have with my clients when they're, discussing that with family members, I tell them, first off, ask them what would make them feel like, first of all, it's not an option to not talk about
That's
it.
right.
But the way that you're approaching it may be causing some stress.
Right.
So for example, a lot of times when I see it, it's like you might be in town for 3 days. They may just want to enjoy your company. You're there trying to check off those task marks.
You're
and
trying
they're
to do
like,
business.
we came to see you asking about stuff that happens when we die.
Yeah.
So just ask them, what would make you feel more comfortable approaching this topic, because it has to be addressed.
Absolutely.
And the other part of it is letting them know the reason it has to be addressed is because if you don't, you will eventually die. I want to be able to mourn your death without having some anger that I'm having to clean up something that you could have taken care of right now.
That's right.
And that is a major
It is.
element.
It's huge.
If you have had anybody in your life die that didn't take care of their affairs, you can tell me I'm lying, but you lying. There is at least a day where you have some anger. Like, this person been dead a year, and I'm sitting here trying to clean up this stuff. They could have just done this while they were alive.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be there to see it, but I would be rolling over in my grave if I worked my whole life to provide something for my family and it became a burden to them or it went to an attorney.
All that money. I'm involved in the heirs property suit now from my great grandmother. And I knew it was coming. You know, I'm telling the whole family, this is coming. I'm telling them for 20 years. We're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
There's no will. Grandmother, and this property is appreciating at a fantastic rate. And we got cousins we never met coming out of the woodwork.
And that's what I was going to say, because the trust protects you from those coming out, because I've seen
It goes
it
to
just,
where it
I've seen
directs
it.
where
I've
they
seen
want
it.
that money to go and where they want their property to go. So if they want control over where they want it to go and who they want to inherit their property, it is just extremely, you got to have the conversations. You have to have them.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead while she comes up to the mic.
My wife's grandparents, her grandmother, granddaughter of a slave, her grandfather orphaned at 14. They scrapped and got family land, and it has some value. And in their trust, they have flat out said, you can lease this land.
That's right.
You can never sell it cannot be sold.
That's how they keep it.
And it is not me trying to control you from the grave. It is me trying to make sure that you will always have something that I left for you. And I'm taking the argument out of your hands. There's 5 of y'all. It don't matter what y'all think. There's no point in arguing amongst yourself. I made this decision for
Their
you.
wishes.
Mercy.
It's their wishes.
Go ahead, Nene.
So I'm just gonna take it back a little bit for the 401K. I was kind of told that that's not a good thing, and this is why. So when you do draw from it, you get the penalty if you have to go early, and if you have to draw from it earlier, and if you pass, the money don't go to someone. Is that true?
No,
Okay.
you're appointing a beneficiary in a 401K.
Yeah, because I thought that, but I was told like, no, it's not a good thing to do a, I want to say IRA. I was told that I could see it better instead of doing the 401K. So I just needed some clarity on that.
401K is, if they're doing a match, is the employer doing a match?
Yeah, they do. But, of
That's
course
free
they do.
money.
Yeah.
That's
Ain't
what-
nothing
that's
bad
what
about
everybody
free
say.
money.
But so like if I'm ever there and I need to get some of that money, then it's penalized.
Well, of course, it's gonna be
So-
penalized because it's for retirement.
So
Yeah.
there's your free money. That's
Yeah,
gone.
well, it's for retirement.
Yeah.
If you're gonna use it for some other retirement, you're gonna take a penalty.
I do think that so in terms of the benefit of it, when you talk about free money, Fidelity actually did a study of people who had at least $1 million in their 401K, and over 25% of it came from money from their employer. So that means over 250,000 was money that they didn't even put into it. So it's a very powerful tool. Not only that,
Yes.
if you earn too much money, you actually can't deduct what you put into an IRA, because the IRS wants you, if you have a 401K at your job, to use the 401K. Now, here's where I do think there's some context to what you're saying. I have a test called the 4 tires test. And the 4 tires test is if you go to the dealer, the mechanic, and they say you need 4 new tires and you don't have the money to pay for them 4 new tires, you don't need to be investing any money. And I think what can happen is people can put money into a 401K when they don't have a savings account and they're drowning in credit card debt. And in that case, it is worth, in my opinion, turning down free money until you have enough to go buy 4 new tires. Now, if you're saying, oh, if I have to access it, well, yeah, to me, you're implying that maybe not you, but the person is in a situation where their finances are not stable enough that they can put aside
that's me.
money.
I made a bad
Right.
business.
So-
I made a bad business investment last year, so
right.
I lost about $40,000.
Yeah.
So now I'm done. I'm
Right.
drowning.
So
Yeah.
in
I'm
that,
just asking.
yeah,
Not time.
in that case,
Yeah, it's different.
it's not time to
That's right.
use the great tool that is a 401k.
Yeah, that's right.
But a 401k is a great tool.
Absolutely.
All right, come on.
Okay, so what would be a trusted corporation to go to start your trust? You know, who would you go to outside of a lawyer so that people could begin their trust, portfolio?
New money, new problem.
So it is, the fact that you asked it is a great question. It does give me the opportunity to kind of explain how it works.
Exactly.
There is no corporation for a trust. A trust is just a legal document that shares your wishes for what you want done with your stuff. So there's no like Fidelity Trust versus like a Charles Schwab trust. It's whatever your name is, revocable trust or irrevocable trust. It's just, it's almost like an imaginary thing that just tells, based on that document, if you go to a bank and your beneficiary has that trust document, here's how, so there is no corporation. It is, I'm just going to create this thing, and this thing has rules, and then I'm going to make sure that my assets either pass to this thing or I'm retitling so that this thing owns those assets so that my rules are followed.
Which you said, personally, like, I think my parents got duped on through the lawyer who did their trust. I think he overcharged them. So would you say, like, is there like finding a reputable lawyer, or even like through, you might have some.
Get his business information afterwards.
So, I mean, I have people to whom I can refer you, but yeah.
Like, I know what you were saying, or there's no company, but can't a lawyer get over on you by what they charge you to draw up those papers?
That's what I'm saying. How would you find a trusted source to handle that trust? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, so he did say my name. I don't draft trusts. I'm not an attorney. Sometimes it is a person who's overcharging, because if you have a trust and there's really not anything complex about that trust, to be clear, it can still cost a few $1,000s. But then there are people who, will charge you just exorbitant fees. But it does cost more money in most cases to create a trust than it does a will. And you're right, you do have to have an attorney that it will at least explain the cost behind what they charge. Is this market rate? But, I've seen it, if you told me, oh, they charged my parents $5,000 to create a trust, that alone wouldn't exactly like shock me.
Also, banks service, they have trust divisions as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. That will serve as a trustee for the trust.
Nah, I got like 3 or so questions. Like
One at a time, just one at a time.
yeah, I'm just gonna break them down. My first question is: if somebody already has a will, like, is there a way to go about and convert that will into a trust to avoid probate and all that, or is it just like constantly stuck in?
In most cases, no, because most of the time you have to do them in conjunction with the other, because when you have a trust, the goal is to have really nothing in your probate estate. So most of the times they partner it with a will that's called a pour-over will. So essentially the will just says, whatever's left in their probate estate, send it to the trust. If you do them separately, you'll have a will that has basically all these duplicate instructions. So I see that a lot too, where somebody's upset because they'll create a will and then they'll want to add a trust later, and the attorney will charge them basically the same fee, and they'll say, "Why? You already did it." Well, not really. Not only do they have to redo the will, they have to create a second, document.
And a lot of time, if the person that's doing your trust, they will incorporate the will, the power of attorney, everything, all the documents you need into that trust. All those documents will be in the trust. So it's the same person usually doing all of them.
All right. I also, coming from my particular background, I don't have any belief in like breaking up like assets, like real estate and all that. And well, I'm trying to, like, just being personal. Like, I got my grandmother who got like 40 acres of land. I've been trying to convince her for years not to sell any of it.
Okay.
Like, I'd rather just take the time and invest in myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, turn it to farmland or something like that. But problem being is that she's in debt. I understand that she's in debt. I'm looking at her like, would it be better for her to sell off the land, or is she better off just like basically barreling down, you know, paying off the bills, paying her taxes, and trying her best to make do, and hopefully she doesn't default.
It's a lot in that,
I know, but
and
what's
and
the
it's,
first?
no, really, because I mean, that's a situation that we have to look at a lot of different things, because that's going to be something unique for her, and it's going to depend on what she wants. Okay, you know, and what's important for her. I mean, right now, I don't know how old she is or where she is in her life, if she's still working or whatever, but it's going to depend on what she needs for her. Okay, because how she received that land from her mother or father or grandmother. See, her wish may not be important for her to keep that land, or maybe you can sell a few acres and keep the rest of it. So it just depends on what her needs are, because if she's in debt, because I've seen people that do that, they sell some of the property, they get out of debt and they go back into debt. So it's kind of like, you know, if you don't fix what's going on with how you're accumulating debt, then you're gonna keep accumulating it. So it just depends on the scenario, and it'd be something unique to her situation, and, you know, depending on what the source of her income and how much debt, and if it's short-term debt. But if it's something that has to do with their property and taxes, that's huge, something you want to take care of quickly, because they will come and get it.
I would also, I don't know the layout. Sometimes people don't think about how you can leverage land.
Yes.
So like I have a friend who has significant acreage. Every 10 years or so, he lets a company clear out the land and he just sells the lumber. And every 10 years, he picks up $40,000, $50,000 from literally just letting a company come out and do that. I have other people who lease land, you know, like I don't want to sell it, but, you know, so look into alternative uses for it as well.
Find a way to make money for me. Absolutely. Or like her.
Exactly, without selling it. I'm not saying that it doesn't end up being, but just sometimes you sit on property and you don't think about the ways. There are nonprofits who are looking for farmland to lease, to just have classes to teach people how to farm, you know, that type of stuff.
All right. And my last question is that like, if like being like just a regular person, you know what I'm saying, you go to work 9 to 5 and all that, like what is probably the best way to minimize taxes like when tax season come around? Because it does take a significant chunk out of like personally what I like to do, which is contracting, and a lot of those times like you receive money, you're not taking your taxes out. You know, you don't really think about that until like tax season come around. You see that big old bill, and it's like,
Who's your CPA?
I was working, like, my last personal employment was a company of Horizon Renovations.
Yeah, but who's doing your taxes?
I've been my mother.
Who's your accountant?
I've been my mother.
Okay. I'm just saying,
Like, she handled
the
it.
question, okay, so he's a dependent.
Yeah.
So he is not gonna turn 21 until, so he's also a college student.
Okay.
So keep that in mind
Mhm.
as well. So, he turns 21 in September. And he, you know, the taxes that were coming out, it's practically minimal, but for him, it's more.
Yeah, I'm just like trying to think like in a future sense if I wanted to go independent and becoming GC or a general contractor, you know, as side work,
Yeah.
how would I want to say, let's say like just minimize my taxes to avoid
What's the rule
those things?
of how much he should put aside? So for $1,000, he's making $1,000, how much should he put aside for taxes?
I'm not a CPA, so I don't want to
It's a
tell you
CPA
the
question.
exact percentage.
Yeah.
I will say a good behavior. So because I'm, you know, independent business owner, every dollar that I make, I put at least 25% aside for taxes. Because I don't know what my tax rate will be.
And there you
so-
go, that's great rule of
Yeah.
thumb. That's very,
Good for him,
that's
and
very conservative.
Yeah.
he gets a refund all the time.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if he got a
Yeah.
refund.
Like the 30% coming.
Yeah. Now here's the thing.
Yeah. Are you getting a big refund?
True, but like,
Yeah.
I
Is he
don't-
getting a
I
big
don't
refund?
like
So this would be, so we were in Vermont. Vermont
Okay.
is the highest
Oh, yeah,
in the
God.
country.
Yeah.
So he only ended up with like 900, so like, and it
Yeah.
was minimal, right? But,
Yeah.
and that's because it has the highest in the country. Tennessee,
Yeah.
it's a little bit more, but he's also a student.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that impacts him. He wants to become independent. I'm letting him become an independent when he turns 21. So yeah, when he files taxes, then he'll be able to claim certain things that he
Yeah.
was able to do this year, right? But his problem is he doesn't want to pay.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Yeah.
more facts.
Here's the thing. As you age, as your business progresses, as you start making more and more consistently, there are strategies to reduce taxes. When you're making consistent income, you might, instead of being an LLC, you might be an S corp, right? There's all types of things that you can do to minimize taxes when you're earning more money and earning it more consistently. I wouldn't even tell you to pursue something like that until you're earning consistent money, because the downside to doing something like that is it costs you more to file your taxes, right? But here's a mindset thing that I would encourage you to flip. I have come across people who don't want to earn money because they have to pay taxes on the money. That's crazy. But that's kind of what you're describing, where it's like, I don't want to pay tax. We have to pay taxes. Render unto Caesar what is his. That's literally a biblical concept, right? So like,
I'm just trying to like minimize what I have to pay.
you want to minimize what you pay, but to me, I go into the year. There may be some level of strategy, but I go into the year trying to make as much as I possibly can. Like there would never be a scenario where I would even think about. Now I may say, hey, there's a better way next year to handle this if I earn this much again. But I don't even think about taxes because I put aside what needs to be put aside. I'm worried about the maximizing the income part. Like at your age, like it shouldn't even be in your mind. It should be, how can I make more than I did last year?
Period. And of course, there's so many, business deductions. So you're gonna be fine, but, you get some good tax advice, especially on small businesses, because that's a different animal, depending on how what your entity is. But there'll be many deductions, but you wanna show income, on those taxes, because in case you ever have to go get a line of credit or something like that for your business. But it's a way to avoid the taxes. There are lots of loopholes out there for small businesses.
Right. And the last question is, I know y'all don't got.
We're trying to go home.
Come on here, we trying to wrap it up, man.
Hey, everybody got like this is like last question. I'm out of here. Like what is the best way for us to get information like this? Like, cause I know like y'all time isn't like all free, and like you be definitely charging for like some of your advice. So,
Well, I was going to, getting to that, because that was going to be my closing ask for them. Tell them how you can get in contact with you all. And I know for a fact that Brenton, he does these nugget videos so that you can go to his YouTube or page and everything, that he does give these nuggets out here. So that's my final thing. Tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, I have cards I'll be able to give to you, but yes, as a business advisor, financial consultant, this is what I do for clients and for people who are prospective clients. So it's what I do for the community and giving back. So it's my give back. So always glad to help, or help you with resources as well. That's what your strong point is too. You have great resources. If you've been in the business long enough, you have great resources. So very good.
And that means she has some things that she wants to give you all, not just a business card as well. So she got a bag of goodies. So
Just some swag.
some swag gifts.
This is not me trying to get you to not reach out to me. There is a fact that like we don't take on a ton of clients every single year because my business is a little bit different. We do high level, high depth planning that takes a long time, and like there's only but so many hours in the day. Still, by all means, we'll connect, and I'll make sure that I'm here as a resource. It's just, you know, in our industry, I can't take on 15 clients in a year, where if she had 15 clients in a year, she'd be like, I'm going out of business if I only have 15 clients. So the best way to keep up with resources that I provide is my podcast. So I have 2 podcasts. One is the New Money, New Problems podcast. Comes out every single week. It's educational information, 20, 25 minutes on anything you can think of in terms of growing wealth. And then we have one specifically for student loan debt called Escape Student Loan Debt. So the New Money, New Problems podcast and the Escape Student Loan Debt podcast.
Well, you need to check into it. Navient, they done having some more issues again. So if you got student loans with Navient, you might want to call into them, see if you can get that expunged or wiped out. So now, one more thing. Can y'all give them just a 30-second nugget that you just want to leave them about financial wealth? 30 seconds of something that you, or maybe a principle of practice that you live by that you want to give to them before you leave. 30 seconds. If not, I'll go ahead and close this up and we can be done. It's on you all.
In my opinion, the most consistent thing that either costs people money or makes people money is how they approach learning about money. So if you refuse to educate yourself on things that confuse you when it comes to money, it will continue to cost you things that it doesn't have to cost you. But the more willing you are to learn about it, the more money it will make you.
I agree, Brent. I've read many financial books. I continue to do that to keep up on everything coming and going. And I recommend, I think the first book that I've even given them to family and clients is Financial Peace by Dave Ramsey. But I have some other, favorites, The Millionaire Next Door. My son picked that up and is passing it along to his kids. The Psychology of Money is another great book. And I also am a fan of Melody Hobson, and she is a principal of Ariel Investments. I'm sure you know who she is, but she has a lot of great wisdom about a black woman who has a lot of great wisdom about finance. So I follow her and read her books, and it's just like what he says, the more you know, the more you grow.
All right, well, look, y'all give them a round of applause. I want to say thank you. I got y'all a little gift. Yes, I do. I got y'all a little gift because I just want to appreciate y'all coming out. But we just want to thank you for all of your knowledge and wealth and your friendship for me. So, all right, well, I'm going to close up in prayer, and then y'all can mix and mingle on our way out. Heavenly Father, Lord, we just thank you once again for this opportunity to come here to learn more about how to be good stewards of our money. So, Lord, we just ask that if there's something that we don't know, that we seek it out, Lord, and we find it, we gain understanding, we gain wisdom on it, Heavenly Father. So, Lord, that we can be able to take care of the money that you, or the talent that you have given us. So, Lord, we ask that you'll continually be with Ms. Deborah, be with Brenton, Lord, and bless their ministry and their business as well. And, Lord, as we leave this place, grant us traveling mercies. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.